Hey, it's Dan Morales, and this is Homebuyer Radio. This is episode number 104. Hard to believe I've done this for 104 episodes, but I'm welcoming back this week my favorite realtor, Rebecca
so nice
Perkins.
of you to say that.
Oh, well, you are, right? Like, you've actually had to tolerate me as a client. Go figure.
Yes. Yes, I have. Hasn't been that difficult, though.
Notice how I use the word tolerate because it's very accurate. Hey, this week I want to talk about, last week what we talked about is we talked about just kind of general market conditions. Since last week, probably nothing's really changed, right?
Right. But
So
that's okay. It's always good to have a little update.
Yes. So it's really, what we were talking about last week was it was really more of a normal marketplace. Not really tilted one way towards buyers or sellers, just really more of a normal, kind of, I don't want to say balanced market, but closer to being balanced.
And I would agree with that. And again, I think we talked about it last time too, that I think it's probably just more normal right now. And I do see some people freaking out, especially sellers. It's been 3 days. What's happening? Why isn't my house selling? It's just becoming more normal right now. So I don't think you need to freak out. I don't think anybody needs to freak out, but I think that it also is a really good idea just working with an agent that can appropriately prepare you as whether it's a buyer or seller with the updated market conditions.
It's funny because we were just talking about a transaction that we were involved with recently where it was a different agent representing the client that was buying a property that you had listed. And, one of the issues was with pricing, right? Of the sale of her house. And so, we're talking about how the market's a little bit closer to normal, where, it's maybe not as red hot as what it was when you go back, let's say this past summer or the last couple of years.
Right.
So we're talking about pricing, this agent that person was working with was an agent that had been around for a while, but really just wasn't maybe as active and didn't have as much maybe current experience in the market, right? So
very diplomatic.
They had experience, but they weren't maybe as active in the market. And, maybe talk a little bit about, the importance of working with an agent that is active, right? Because a lot of times, I think what we've seen, and I've talked about this in a previous episode, is we've seen a ton of agents come into the industry. And, as you have, right? And, and you and I have worked together north of 10 years, but we've seen a lot of agents come into the industry, and a lot of times those agents just don't have the same depth of knowledge or experience like you do. Can you talk to like how that can end up hurting a client in the end?
I think going back to our situation that happened is probably a good example of, this person built a home and they had an existing home to sell, and they knew that, but they did need to sell their home before they could purchase the new one, and had all spring and summer in order to do so. Again, they were working with another agent, but buying the new construction, and I was working with the seller, the builder of the new construction property. So we were ready, maybe gave them a month heads up, which again, I'm not representing the buyer on the existing home, so I don't really have much to do with that. So they basically got it ready 2 or 3 weeks before she needed to close, which is, first of all, an unrealistic time to close unless you're paying cash. So, a lot of people are getting mortgages, and it's you're not closing in 2 to 3 weeks. It's just probably most likely not going to happen. Yep. So this here we are coming into just typically a little bit slower time of year. And then the house didn't sell in the first few days. And then it ended up taking a little bit over a month, which then, of course, delayed her being able to close on her new condo. And then she ended up having to drop the price because she's getting pressure from the builder because she committed to this home. And she took a pretty big hit on her her existing home in order to get into her new condo. Obviously, just I feel like in that situation, the realtor just misguided the buyer. And I mean, they had ample time to do it. I know she didn't want to make two moves, but gosh, a little more guidance from an experienced realtor could have saved her a lot of money on the sale of her existing home, and better timing. I mean, we can't control the market, but oh my gosh, it was a tough situation.
It could have saved time. It could have saved money had her expectations been set correctly right from the get-go. Because I think what happened is, she worked with an agent who painted a picture as though the property could be sold for far more than what it actually ended up selling for. So right away, her expectations were off. They waited far too long to put the property on the market. And again, it really comes back to an agent that's out of touch with what's going on with the market. They were out of touch in pricing the home because they priced it too high to begin with. They were out of touch with how long it would take to actually sell and for her to be able to accomplish what she needed to do to be able to buy the next one. And, and they were just way out of touch in price. And all of that just led to a whole lot of frustration for this client that was completely avoidable, right?
Exactly. And that I was going to touch on that point. So you have somebody super excited about their brand new, beautiful condo to total disappointment, frustration, sad, and taking a hit financially. And then it's just not quite as exciting at the closing, which is such a bummer. I mean, it's such an exciting, it should be such an exciting time in your life. And in this situation, it wasn't, which was, I think it was sad for everybody involved.
It was, because I had the opportunity to work with a client on the financing side, and, just seeing her excitement about it and, just, watching her go through this like really kind of difficult experience and, and trying to help guide her, right? Like, hey, maybe you should be a little more realistic on your price and, trying to, really do part of what was really her agent's job had they guided her correctly right from the get-go. So, I guess long story short, what it comes down to is, when clients, choose a realtor to work with, the experience and knowledge of that realtor is important. And is it fair to say not just the length of time that they've been in business, right? Because there's people that have been in this industry for a long time that, this is a case of someone who was in the industry for a long period of time, but just wasn't really actively practicing real estate to the point where they were just out of touch with what was going on with the market and out of touch with how to price it, just out of touch with a number of things. So just because somebody has a lot of experience doesn't necessarily mean that they're maybe the best choice, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that
because they're not actively practicing, right? And would it be fair to say that somebody who dabbles in real estate part-time,
don't even get me started. Seriously. You're dealing with people, and for most people, their biggest investment that they may ever make. And if you're having surgery, you don't hire a part-time surgeon, right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's you want somebody who's actively doing it, who's in touch with the market, knows what they're doing,
seeing the changes, what's happening, right?
But it is actively working with buyers and sellers and has experience in a number of different types of properties, different areas, and so on. Because for the 10 plus years you and I have worked together, your depth of knowledge and experiences crosses a lot of different areas, right?
Right.
And you've worked with clients from all walks of life, and and have done it very successfully. I know I'm gonna brag for you because you won't do it on your own. But we just looked at a production report of the top, I think 750 agents it was in Greater West Michigan. And you were in the very top of that, you were right up there, and this is, you gotta keep in mind, your numbers were compared to people who have teams of agents that work for them,
right?
And you don't have.
I work for it too. I do. I work very hard.
But you don't have, your numbers didn't count like a team of 10 people underneath you.
Right.
It was just you, right? And her numbers were comparable to people who had large teams of agents working for them. So
Thank you.
That speaks volumes about the quality of what you do. Plus, I'm fortunate enough to work with a lot of your clients, and your clients love you. And this one too, right? So, and you've worked with a lot of my family too. So, long story short, what really, this week's episode, I just really wanted to talk about the importance of, working with somebody who's experienced. I've talked about this in previous episodes, but would it be safe to say that there are times where it can cause people not only frustration but a lot of money?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And they don't know it until it's too late.
It's kind of like you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
Like you don't know, like you left money on the table, or you lost money because, and we'll talk about this maybe next week, is the risk of pricing the house just wrong, and what could happen when you do that. Hey, my name is Dan Morales with North Point Bank. My MLS number is 709-729. My phone number is 616-931-4629. You can find me online at danmorales.com. That's DANMORALEZ.com. And how do folks reach you?
Oh, thanks again so much for having me on today. I
Absolutely.
really appreciate it. You can reach me at area code 616-218-6161. Again, that's 616-218-6161. Or my email address, which is Rebecca@RebeccaPerkinsHomes.com.
Hey, thanks for listening, and make sure you join us next week.